I'll tell you what, it's exciting. Chomping at the bit. I'm gonna have an honest moment for you real quick. I'm so, like you say, laser focused on the next opponent. I forgot we're on a bye this week. We don't play them till the 25th. I'm ready for K-State right now. That's an honest moment right there. I don't know it all, but that's how my mind is. I knew who was next, and I've already been watching stuff. So next week, it's gonna be it's all
Do
K-State.
they have a bye as well?
For some reason, I want to say it sets up that both are coming off byes.
Hey, see y'all from Texas.
What's going on, everybody? Good to see you. We're back for another episode of Just Talking Ball, and as always, he's gonna be, when we see him, we're already gonna know what his face looks like. But I got my co-host, as always, Eric Foster in the building. What's going on, man?
Hey, man, it's a great day to be a Longhorn.
Boy, I mean, first your birthday, and then now you get the birthday present you wanted. I mean, it's just it's a good time to be alive, huh?
It's a good day, man. I'm happier than anything that you see your team struggle and have real adversity and find a way to get back on track. And added bonus happens to be against your biggest rival, the one that you actually have respect for. So, like, being able to get back on track is bonus number one. And then the super bonus is who it comes against. So,
yeah,
I feel good.
Yeah, and we're gonna get into it. We've got a lot of good info, but as let's say we'll put our agenda up, and I hate to, as a coach, I hate to talk about this, but it's the second week in October, and we're already talking about the hot seat and coaches getting fired, and there's been at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like at least 12 coaches that fired so far, just the Division One. But that's just comes with the territory. But we're also gonna get into what we're mad about. We're gonna recap the Texas Tech Kansas game, but then we'll preview the Sunflower Showdown, Kansas State. I'm excited about that one, another rival game, and Eric will get to revel in the recap and relive of the Red River Shootout, and then he'll briefly give us his thoughts on Texas Kentucky, and then we got about 3 different games that we're looking for, games to watch for, with predictions and picks. We're gonna go ahead and man up and pick instead of just saying what we're watching for. We've been kind of for lack of a better word, weak or scared about giving picks. We don't
me.
like
I've jumped out there and been way wrong already. So not me.
well, now we'll officially start counting it, right now. So right now, let's just first of all, let's talk about this whole hot seat. And when I start naming off schools, Kent State, Stanford, UCLA, Virginia Tech, Oklahoma State, Oregon State, Arkansas, Penn State, UAB, gone. Coaches gone. And then you start hearing about, well, possibly Florida State, possibly Florida, possibly North Carolina, which is crazy, possibly Auburn, So the world we live in today, man, in college football, and everybody's got their opinion. Everybody has a platform. You and I talked about this the other day. Everybody thinks they know, and we don't know it all. We have our opinions just like everybody else does, but what is out of those schools, what is the biggest shock to you that the trigger was pulled so fast, like the first week or week and a half or 2 weeks in October? I'll be fair, 2 weeks in October.
I think it's James Franklin. I don't even think it's particularly close, because everyone else that we talked about, we've talked about probably before. I will say I'm surprised. The biggest surprise is Penn State. I will say I'm also surprised with how poorly Florida is handling Billy Napier. Because if you're going to do it, you had your opportunity going into the bye. Like if you're going to do it, I do think there's a way to do it, because I do think you and I will probably disagree on coaches getting fired and should they or would they, because me being on the fan side, you being on the coach side, I feel the entitlement, and I think we're seeing the evolution of this new day in college football, where you got your handout on one side saying, I need this for these facilities, and need, and everybody was reading an article. It's talking about how programs are having to put resources akin to like a personnel department. They're having to do the same thing, you know, now that they're able to bring NIL umbrellas and things like that closer to the school.
The collective and all that.
You're being able to, you've got to build up those arms of the program as well. So yeah, if you're going to reach out and you're going to ask folks for all this kind of money, they're going to have an, I don't want to say outsized, because I do think I think this is true in anything in America, in a capitalist society. Your say is commensurate with what you give.
Yeah.
The more you give, the more they're going to listen to you. So now that fans are giving more, you take into account, because now they can turn that spout off.
Yeah.
And that's what you don't want to do, because, you know,
there's a trickle down effect. It's
you set your program behind.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to say behind, but you do put your program in some kind of position when you change head coaches.
Yeah.
And that take away all the money, you put yourself in a real spot.
Yeah. and that's a great perspective coming, like you said, from what your point of view. And then, you know, me being on the other side of it, you know, going into it, it's about wins and losses. Yeah, that's why they keep score. But then you got to put a group of guys together that like each other or respect each other, a good staff together, and you got to build relationships. You got to deal with what issues may come about with these kids, you know, individually, from different backgrounds, socioeconomic, what have you, you know, 2-parent home, no parent home, 1-parent home, you know, what grandma, it's endless. It's endless, you know, things that those guys deal with. And it's like, nobody sees that Monday through Friday, you know, and, you know, it's Saturday's the game, and that, you know, and that's what we're here for. We want to perform on that. When the lights come on, we want to perform. But then no matter how it goes, everybody goes home. We go back to the film room, and then, okay, kids are doing this, you know, hopefully everybody celebrates the right way. Everybody safe, comes back Sunday, and then we're having a family dinner with coaches' families and the kids, you know, trying to maintain that family dynamic. And then we're getting ready for the next thing. But it's like, depending on how we played, now you're also dealing with, I got to go see the AD because blah, 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 or this alum, or, you know, a lot of times
even then, you're bringing the fans closer than they've ever been to the program, because especially, it's going to sound like a shot, but it's not, but especially when you're a program like in Oklahoma, where the donor base may not be as deep, so you need more from fans. They're selling tickets to press conferences, and fans are coming to practice. And
and I ain't mad at that. I ain't mad at that. Yeah.
So I think as this just becomes a thing, and it's like every change in every major sport or every major part of the world, once things start to change and kind of settle into what they are, everyone will adjust to the new normal. So it's nothing for an NFL coach to get fired in the middle of the season. It's a big business. Yeah. It's a big. So now that college football is stepping up into that, you know, really NFL junior training league, from a not only a development perspective, but a compensation perspective, because now kids are staying longer, right? So it's truly a better development, and it's going to affect the NFL. NFL is going to have to start paying rookie contracts, and that next CBA that's coming up, all of those things are going to go up. Why? Because those kids are going to be older. They're going to be, and the NFL will eventually be okay with it as well, because the kids are more NFL ready. But yeah.
But like I say, it's tough because, you know, like you said, the compensation part of it, and, you know, you hear a coach get fired and it's like, oh, I don't feel bad for him because he's got a $55 million buyout. But at the core of you, just like, you know, being a competitor or wanting to always exude excellence, I'm gonna feel a certain way that I got fired, you know, like you got fired because you failed, you know what I'm saying? Like you failed at your job. You know, you take pride in wearing the logo on your chest and saying, I'm the head coach for whatever school, but then I got fired, you know. And
I don't know that I feel bad that you get fired. I feel bad for the things that tend to happen leading up to it. Like when they talk about people yelling at James Franklin's kids and his wife. Like I feel bad for.
Well, that's just part. That's all part of it.
I feel bad for James Franklin or Ed Orgeron, the person.
Yeah.
I don't feel bad for nobody that's got. You know what I mean?
But it's hard to separate. It's hard to separate because, like you say, you've done what you've accomplished things to be able to earn that. You've accomplished things to say, because you know, like if you I don't want to take a shot at nobody, but like Trent Dilfer. Is Texas going? If Texas wanted their next head coach, are they going to go after Trent Dilfer? No. That was just previously fired as the coach at UAB. You know, that's what I'm saying. So like, and it's all wrapped in one. Like I say, the family is in it too. Just like when you get married, you don't just marry the girl or the man. You marry the family too. You know, you get everybody. So it's one of those things that I think sometimes fans do take too many liberties, and they think because no matter how much money you make, it don't make you.
Well, you do forget their people, and that's why I say I don't think anybody's entitled. Like, it's just who you are at your core, whether you're an empathetic person or not. I tend to be, but I don't think anyone's entitled to empathy. So again, you just have to remember that they're people. That doesn't mean you got to be empathetic. You just have to be mindful of, okay, I'm not going to step over certain lines, or I'm not going to do this. I'm going to, because they're a person, and ultimately, some people find out the hard way, grown men at the same time. So if you don't,
and I'm all for that. I'm all for that.
If you don't move accordingly, it's different.
You need, I learn this consequence. You want to do this, learn this consequence.
And I always hate, what I hate for James Franklin in particular, and I think his is a little more set aside than, I'll give Ed Orgeron, win a title, bad year, another bad year. Not okay. So kind of not the same. James Franklin, college football playoff, clearly in the middle of a bad year. One, do you get an opportunity to right the ship down the and that's honestly probably what Penn State was scared of. And we also don't know if you have a good athletic director. I'll speak for the Texas athletic program.
Shout out to Travis Goff too. Shout out to Travis Goff. Yeah.
I'll speak for like the Texas program in general that I know. Chris Del Conte, the athletic director, sits down with every head coach. What do you need? What are the objectives this year? And you're measured against that. And so I know that a lot of the times these people know kind of what's at stake. So was the conversation coming into the year, hey, you have to show us progress in winning these big games.
And like you say, and it
has to be on the table.
Yeah, and it's a different boat too, because like you say, when an AD can sit down and say, "What do you need?" and basically give them everything there, and give them everything. Then that margin for error gets a little smaller. You know what I'm saying? But like you say, now you think about Gainesville, and you think about whatever the relationship is between that head coach and that AD, where some people on the outside may say, "God, he's got chance after chance," and then when you have this opponent, a la Texas. Oh, now it kind of saves you. Does it save your job for the year, or does it buy you just another week?
But you get worried, and I'm sure that's what the boosters, because like I said, when I'm complaining about how they're handling him, allegedly, if you take what the media says with some sense of accuracy, they've already had the conversation. They had the conversation yesterday.
And
with the alumni and the AD.
And you see the rumors about they've already raised the money. Yeah, they've already raised the money, so to say.
So then kudos to at least you give a man a chance to play it. I would rather them not, because I just don't think it's right to keep somebody on the string like that. But hey, he can take this with a positive and say, all right, if I right this ship down the stretch for however long, because assume, okay, they're going to let me coach till I lose again. Okay, boom, where I'm going to ride this wave all the way to the end. Well, if they do what they did last year and end on a 6-game win streak, his time at Florida probably still is up. But that makes that next call a whole lot easier.
Yeah, because now your resume has a win against Texas. It has a win against, so. Well, it's lighting up, and like I said, I read today. I saw Micah Parsons spoke out on it, and he talked about this is kind of alluding to the relationship part of it. He talked about how he wouldn't be where he is today if it wasn't for Coach Franklin, and just a lot of people. It's just like you say, that's the one that is the most surprising. I know you're a big Sam Pittman fan too. When Arkansas got rid of him a couple weeks ago, and
But that was, again, coming. Shout out to my boy Billy Lucci. He masterful, in how that played out, and he was right to the T of when he would get fired, what the replacement would be, Arkansas would begin to show this promise, and I'll talk about how much promise I think they're going to show coming up this week. But again, I think it's just a part of the game, and the rest of us, and I think maybe why fans typically don't have as much empathy is because everyone else in their 9 to 5 is probably in a result-oriented job, where if I don't do my job, I'm going to get fired. There's no timeline. There is no, I'm going to, we have to let you get to the end of the month or whatever. No, most people that are giving or in these positions, and some of it's new, like these are new fans giving, where I'll use, again, Texas as another example. Texas never really cared about small dollar donations. It was always, we need it in bulk. We need big dollars. But now, hell, $20 matter. If every fan in the stadium, you got 100,000, 107,000 strong. If every fan gives me $20,000 or $20, what do I have? So that's one of those things that those small dollar donations really start to matter. So I think you will see ADs in every sport start to be more reactive than maybe they would have in the past. That's why, watch out. It's going to be very dependent on how they end the season. I don't think Brent Venables getting fired is off the table. Because you look at the way their schedule could end up, they have a legitimate chance if Mateer is hurt and can't right the ship and continues to turn the ball over that way, they could lose 4 more games. You're on mute. They could win out. They could win out. They're still in that position. They could win out and be in college football playoff, and that's kind of the fan base has created that own expectation on him. So if he loses another 2-3 games, God forbid 4, and all to very good teams with playoff chances in their own right, look out now.
Yeah, and like I say, at that press conference when he tried to give a shot at the Big 12, boy, you got to check you got to have somebody that can fact find before you start running your mouth.
Well, I think it's all about how you and again, this is what coaches know. When you're in the room, you know how much of a say you have in the room. You know how much of an impact you have on the outcome of the game. So he probably truly feels like, right? You go back to your days, some of your days, you were technically a GA, but you had very real material impacts on the way meetings were ran, on the way a coach's perception was shaped, which goes into how a game plan is shaped. So the title doesn't necessarily matter. So Brent probably feels, and I hate that I'm in a position to defend him, but he probably feels like as the DC that those 7 Big 12 championships that he won, I was a real part of that. You know what I mean? So in his mind, he deserves credit.
And I mean, and they were rolling, but like just take it, man. I mean, getting beat by Texas ain't the worst thing in the world.
It's hard, man, because you go into that game.
Because the significance of it. Yeah,
you know the significance, and you just know in your soul we've probably prepared very well. We've did all the things. I'm gonna win, and he's in a position. He was 2-1 or 1-2 headed into the game. So he's like, oh, finally, I'm gonna get one. And
I'm about to say, and the setup,
I'm ready for it.
We're ranked higher, better record. Like the setup was like, let's go get it. We've got everything on our side, and
And then you play the game, you weren't even close.
Yeah,
but
well, yeah, and we'll get into that. But yeah, so let's roll on and let's get into what you're mad about. I'm gonna jump into it first, and I don't want to. This is a little different for me in the sense of what I'm mad about. I'm not really mad. I'm bothered because if I was any one of these teams, I would feel a certain way about things. The officiating that kind of went on, some of the questionable calls, some of the things that had let's see. Let's take a gander at it. So the first one is the Red River shootout.
That one.
But the main one that was the last one that, what guys say about blocks in the back or away from the call, does it impact? That's impacting the return. clearly impacting the
He's taking a
return.
bad angle. Now again,
That is
I
a
told
block
you,
in the back. I know you're going to defend it.
I'm not arguing. We talked about it.
We're going to talk about it. So next one, LSU, South Carolina. Just the spotting of this punt right here clearly shows the ball's probably out on what, a 6.5, 7 yard line. And this referee walks it up to like let's see where he walks it up. Was past where it was. I was just bad. But this is the worst one. Kirby Smart is calling timeout. Is he not? And then on national TV in front of God and everybody says, no, I was clapping to say, let's go. You can read his lips say, no, I was clapping. I didn't call timeout.
So this one's funny. Is this the last one? I don't want to interrupt.
Look, yeah, that's the last one. But so what
this one is funny. If you listen to him on the SEC coaches call last week,
he's lying. But go ahead. Yeah,
no,
I want to hear what you're saying.
I'm saying he's saying, if you read his lips and if you see it on a larger screen, if you're reading his lips, he's doing this, which is the universal signal for timeout.
Yes.
But he's saying they're clapping. They're clapping.
Oh, okay.
They're clapping. Okay. So again, both. And I think somebody asked him actually the question in a really good way, and he dodged it. Where they said, we see that you're saying you're clapping, but you absolutely are giving the signal for timeout.
Yes.
Do you think that, while what you're saying is true and what you were trying to communicate is true, and they try to give him an out, like, did you inadvertently signal timeout? Yeah. And he's like, I'm done with it. And I was like, that was the phrasing of the question that probably
that's what he said.
Because that is probably the truth of what happened. Is I'm trying to alert the official that they are clapping, because I talked about it on the coach call the week before. I told you in pregame this is something that they do, and when they do it, I'm going to tell you about it. And I call myself doing it. But I effed up, right? I was trying to talk to you about them clapping, but I did the timeout signal. I messed up, and he knows he can't say that, because now the onus is back on the league and back on the officials of, what do you do? I hate it. We talked about it. It happened to Kansas a couple years ago in the Oklahoma game, something similar. If in basketball, I've never seen it. In basketball, if they give you the timeout, that is your timeout, whether you got it or not. That's what's going to happen. And I think the way you have to lift the veil, and credit to I think it's the ACC that does it. You have to start to lift the veil on the officials. And it's going to sound crazy, but I think the way you quit making them the story is to make them more a part of the game, in the sense of, okay, well, let me hear what y'all are talking about in the review. Right? I love that. That is my favorite thing. And it's the ACC, right, that's doing it.
I think I haven't heard much about it.
But that's my favorite thing, that they put the headset on and you're passing to the room. So you hear what they're talking about.
Oh, yes. I think it is the ACC.
What the exchange is.
You hear everything, and you see all the screens.
So now that immediately takes away the, they're cheating or whatever. I heard you. I heard exactly what you said. And I think just how when a coach does something wrong and the league fines them, right? That fine or that suspension or whatever, they don't keep that behind closed doors. That's public. Why do we do that for the officials? Why are the officials allegedly reprimanded or fined or all these things behind closed doors? No, we need to know that there is accountability for these guys. If there's because it's my understanding that every league kind of maintains their point system, and that's how people get submitted to do the big bowl games and the conference championship games. Okay, why don't we see those? So that we know at a minimum, we know that they're not very good.
Yeah.
And I think fans and people can wrap their heads around, okay, hey, we know we got a bad group coming. We got a bad officiating group coming in.
On the average. Maybe
as a coach, one, I'm going to expect it. And I would hope that it's consistent both ways. I've always said this. I think coaches' biggest gripes about bad officiating, it's actually not that the official is bad. It's that you don't feel like they're consistent, because we talk about it all the time. Hey, you know what? That guy was they were terrible, but they were terrible both ways, and I can live with that.
Yeah.
When it's just
they were
terrible,
consistent.
when it's just terrible this
Consistently
way,
terrible.
I can't live with it. I'm gonna go quick. I'm mad about two things. One, because I just saw it. I wasn't even gonna talk about it. We gotta quit. I'm the biggest. I'm former women's basketball coach. Like, I'm all Texas women's sports. I'm there. I watch. I support. I give money. But we have got to, and this is what happens when you give everybody a damn microphone. We have got to stop comparing women's sports to men's sports, even when it's the same sport. I think Serena Williams said it best. She said, in my prime, if I played Roger Federer 2 years after he retired, I would lose 3 sets in a row, 6-0, 6-0, 6-0. And she said it would probably take about 20 minutes.
Wow.
That's complete domination. She said it's a whole different game. They serve faster, they jump. The same thing. I just heard Patrick Beverley say that he believes that the Las Vegas Aces could beat an NBA bench. He said not the starters. He said it wouldn't even be close. He said, but the bench players in the NBA, if you line them up and they played the Las Vegas Aces would win. And I think his co-host did a phenomenal job of saying, well, just in general, men tend to be a little bit bigger. He said, so I can, and I think they used the Washington Wizards as an example. And they came up with a lineup that would be 6'4", 6'4", 6'4", or 6'4", 6'4", 6'6", 6'10", 7 feet. There's no way a woman could even and I'm saying that it frustrates me because I think it does a disservice to the women's games, because it kind of diminishes them when, if compared on their own merits, women's sports can be just as entertaining, just as popular, just as fun to watch as men's sports. But when you start trying to cross those lines and the stupid people get involved in the conversation,
and there's a lot of them,
you lose. It kind of devalues the women's game. So that frustrates me.
No, but you're right, because college, I think, in my opinion, this past year, women's college basketball was way more popular than men's college basketball, or even the last 2 years, like the draw, or they just made so many games that I caught myself like looking for the women's basketball matchups than I did, the men's, because, I don't know. I mean,
I think it stops. I think the comparison stops in high school. A really good elite high school girls basketball team could probably beat a really bad boys high school basketball team. And that's where it stops, because they're the same. They tend to be kind of the same size. They're, the bad boys basketball team isn't going to be fundamental. They're not going to jump high. You ain't got dunkers all over the place.
Hell, so a lot of times the girls are maturing faster than the boys, exactly. So they're probably taller. And
you can see, and women's teams practice against. It's not just men, right?
No, you're exactly right.
I see women's teams beat a collection of men all the time.
That's their scout team.
But those men aren't
exactly
or on that same level. So and I think the last thing, because I've heard it so much, it goes to the hot seat conversation. We're talking about what coaches would leave, what coaches would not. If someone like a Curt Cignetti turns down an Indiana job for Penn State, for example, that is because he has a family and he loves where he lives in Bloomington. And, he's kind of created this narrow lane for him. There is no world where a program like an Indiana, even in today's world, is on par with a Penn State. And they won't be. You can never beat, and I've always believed this, you can never beat an elite state institution that is the institution in the state. Because if you look at Pittsburgh, you've got Pitt. What else am I missing? That's it. Right?
I mean, Pitt and Penn State. You got the Ivy League school, but
right?
I mean,
so Penn State and Penn State is a cut above Pitt, right? So Indiana, prior to Curt Cignetti, wasn't even the best school in Indiana. Purdue was better than them, right? So that's a wild take that I've just heard way too much. That Indiana, I don't even know if that's a better job. That's crazy. I'll be fair to yahoos up the road where they were like, well, I'm not sure if Texas A&M is a better job than I think they were talking about Auburn. It absolutely is.
Yeah. Yeah.
It absolutely is. And it's not even close. So it's like when we start to compare like what I think we've got to look at what these programs are capable of in a perfect scenario, because that's what I think you're trying to think of and compare. If all things are equal and everything goes well, what school has the higher ceiling? Now, while I was fair to them, I'll be fair. We're seeing when all things are equal, Texas and A&M aren't even on the same playing field. Is the gap big? No, not really. But is it the same? Also, no. Right? That's in the pudding. We can look at the kids that you get in the state. Like you get the next best crop of kids, but the best kids in a particular state are always going to want to go to that state school. I think the only state where it's even remotely close is Florida, where because of their own right and their own success, Florida, and not even Florida right now, but Miami.
But historically, those three,
they are all intertwined, and that's going to come down to where did that kid grow up?
Yeah, because you're talking about Tallahassee North, Gainesville Central, and then Miami South.
Where did that kid grow up? And hell, and that's even if you keep the kid in state.
Yeah,
because they might be bringing their ass to Texas too.
Yeah. Or at one time, Alabama, Georgia, like getting out right, so
it just becomes not the same. And I think we got to quit. They got to quit doing that because it sounds, I hear it and I have to rewind it because I'm like, I'm tripping.
Coach, we'll see what Coach Signetti does. Shout out to him on that big win.
He's 65 now. If he don't, or 64. I think if he doesn't do it this year, I don't think he does it.
Yeah. Well, that big win against Oregon, I called it. I told you.
It's a good win, but how often are you going to have 6-year players? How often is that developmental system
until we get until this portal and all this other stuff gets under control?
But I think they're experiencing, and you got to look at the makeup of their roster. While they are very good and a absolute legitimate title contender, you look at, okay, how was that roster constructed, and how is that an anomaly? Is that something that's just happening right now, or is it something that we can repeat? You look at Ohio State last year. Hey, we money with these kids and we bought this roster. Can I repeat that, or was that an anomaly? Okay, we got money. We can repeat that.
Yeah.
You look at Indiana. Okay, I'm at the tail end of this great developmental cycle where I've got 6-year seniors all over the field.
It's definitely considered. The roster management is consideration.
Is that repeatable, or can I go buy it? You can't buy it at Indiana.
But it's more feasible now because of the portal. Like if you were like before the portal, and you like, we just had a group that stayed together. They were a good group, and you like.
But you don't even have the money. That's what I'm saying.
Get out with them.
In this new world, you don't even have the money.
Yeah,
because that's the next part, right? To get the kids in, to get them to stay together, you got to have the money.
But I think it'll start coming because he's starting to beat teams like Oregon, and he's starting to get national notice. Like, you got to, or like you use Kansas. All of a sudden, we had a booster come out of nowhere. David Booth has been around Kansas forever. $500 million later, you know what I'm saying? We got a new stadium. We wasn't in the college football playoff last year. You know what I'm saying? It's just Kansas was doing enough, or at least he felt he saw something in that program that was like, okay.
I think Kansas is the best comparison to Indiana that I've heard thus far, where we've already talked about that. My opinion of Kansas is that Kansas will always be a program that every 4 years will be able to compete with anybody. And I think it'll be the exact same in Indiana if he stays. Every 3 or 4 years, he'll be able to beat an Oregon, beat Ohio State, play with anybody. But what's happening in those middle years, I think, is what separates a Penn State, where you can go and they're going to give you everything to where you can be there every single year. So it'll tell me about himself. And if you think that you got the moxie to make Indiana a perennial Big Ten power, I like that. And he just might, because he say some wild stuff that he tends to go around and back up.
I like him. He's all about business, man.
He might be that guy. I don't know.
Man, well, yeah, it would be exciting to see. So yeah, this carousel is started up, and it's I just want to see ball. Speaking of ball, let's just let me get my pain out the way as we move on. So my Jayhawks fell hard this past weekend to a good Texas Tech team, 42-17 at the Jones Stadium. That drops us down to 4-3 for the season, 2-2 in the Big 12. Obviously, Texas Tech is rolling. They're 6-0. They're 3-0, and it was a deal that I was ready for, but I didn't see it happening like this, man. And I'll go through it. We get the ball first. I hate that, but I told you last week. About the D-line and secondary and that David Bailey kid. I told you, and I hate that I was right on watching this because I'm just gonna, I'll get to it. But anyway, so they jump out. Dude, do you know that kid's a Crockett
Shout out
kid?
to Crockett's finest.
Yeah, Austin Crockett. We both have a connection, coaching and graduate. So
Well, it's funny. I went to school with some Dickies, and they're
I
not
remember
even
the
related.
name.
They're not even related.
Okay. So yeah, we were there at the same time.
Yeah.
Funny enough. And so, but they jump out on us 21-0, and it's ugly. It's scary. We fumble right here with Ballard. The play call is great. We just got to take care of the ball. But just going over Jalen Daniels, 27-33 for 228 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, So our tight end had 13 catches. So, shout out to growing, and just he's getting better. Highshaw led the way. He finally, I don't think he's healthy. We've got a 2-headed monster in LaShawn and Highshaw, but on the other hand, Tech had 505 yards of total offense on us. Now 133 was only in the air. You think Tech, because of what Coach Leach did and just the way that program has been, you think air raid and all that, but they actually rushed for what? The Dickey kid had 263 yards and 2 touchdowns. So they outrushed us on the ground like, what is it? Let me look at it. 272 to 133. So no, I'm sorry. 372 to 47. We were terrible on the ground. But anyway, we talked about this Cameron Dickey kid. He's an Austin Crockett kid. Shout out to South Austin. On 21 carries, 263 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had 2 big runs of 71 and 55. We couldn't tackle him. Baron Morton went out on an injury. I was worried about this because I didn't want it to be I'm real big on how people tackle these days, the hip sit and all that. And it wasn't that. I'm so glad. Leroy Harris has done a good job for us. Big defensive end. It wasn't a dirty tackle. It was just unfortunate. He was 7 for 12 at that point, 91 yards, 1 TD, but he left the game. Now, I hate to say it like this, but it did give us a spark. And it gave us a spark because we came back, scored a touchdown. Then they ended up getting a field goal. So it's 21-7, or I'm sorry, 21-0. But then we score right there. And we roll, and then we come back and we score 17 unanswered going into the half. So it's like, okay, it really showed you that Morton is the leader of this offense, and they can't work without him. But shout out to the backup quarterback. I forgot his name, came in, and once they figured out what he could do well, they wrote it, and it was a lot of using his legs, zone option. He was keeping it. He was pulling it down. But, man, we just, 9 sacks. David Bailey, I don't think David Bailey had 9 sacks for 92 yards lost. That's a great rushing day. If you rush for 92 yards on 9 carries, but he had 9 sacks, and I told you, this D-line graded out at a 90-something. The secondary graded out at 90-something, and they were as advertised. So shout out to them, Coach McGuire. They're doing great things down there. You alluded to talking about being able to buy a roster. You talked about the $28 million roster, but after that, we just couldn't get it done. We couldn't take care of the ball, and just couldn't sustain drives. But ultimately, we lost 42-17. Coach Leipold, you mentioned in the post-game show, the offense couldn't sustain enough consistent drives to win. And that was something that definitely stood out with me. In the second half, Tech got the ball. We stopped them. I don't know if it was a 3-and-out, but we stopped them. Okay, no points. We get the ball. We don't score. Tech gets the ball back again. We 3-and-out them. No points. We get the ball back. we don't score. So we had 2 empty drives where we could have closed the gap, if not taken the lead, when Tech was still trying to kind of scrambling, trying to find their way and figure out what this quarterback could do, what could work for him, and we didn't. And, and we deserved to lose. And I'll tell you what, man, at one time in the game, early in the game, man, I started feeling like this was 2015, 2016 Kansas, where it's like, oh, God, you're just waiting for it to get ugly. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, oh, my God. And then it was 21-0, and then that happened, and then we, it's 21-17 and a half. Okay, it's a 4-point, it's a new ball game, but we couldn't find a way. But like I said, I thought Texas Tech D-line and secondary was as advertised. Obviously, the Pro Football Focus guys got it right. They started fast on us, man. So it's just, you got to move on. We talked about it. You said 13 and a half was a lot. Well, they did more than cover. They dominated, and 500. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think they probably looked in the trenches and said, if you give up 200 plus yards on the ground, I don't know what the statistic is, but I would bet you the win percentage is 90% or higher, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you just don't typically lose games when you can run the ball that effectively. Yeah. And their defensive line, you just can't let anybody. I'm watching, Colin Simmons and the Texas defensive line round into who we thought they would be, and you're witnessing firsthand what you just saw is you can't let one individual wreck a game that way. That's Jadeveon Clowney type stuff.
Yeah, 9 sacks is crazy.
Where you game plan around that guy. Yeah. I want to see, and I think it's just because, and I'm not saying it can't happen, because I watched Arizona State compete with an elite offensive and defensive line unit in Texas last year. So I'm not saying it by any stretch of the imagination that it can't happen, but I think what is so intriguing about a Texas Tech team going into their race to lose to get into the playoffs is to get matched up against a line that can probably damn sure make sure he don't get 8 sacks, So what does that look like then when those guys can't wreck a game, where you can't have just 2 people wreck a game, and you got to go and do some other stuff. And that's where I think teams, and what makes college football playoffs get so interesting, is you have teams that come in and just are able to really only win one kind of way. And I haven't seen, I've watched 3 or 4 of their games. So I haven't seen Tech win in a whole bunch of different ways. All their wins kind of look the same. They wrecked the game with David Bailey on the defensive line, and they rushed the ball very well. Yeah. When you can't do those, because good teams are going to take those 2 things away. Ohio State, you're not going to do those things. So then what? And if you go a whole season without having been tested, and I do think they'll have a decent test going to. They got to go to Scottsdale or Tempe on Saturday. I think their next big test is they got BYU coming into town, and that'll probably decide the winner of that game. It would probably be a shoe-in for the Big 12 championship in Dallas. Yeah. So I'll be excited to see how these teams evolve and how they handle real pressure. I think it's pressure because you're good now, but it's gonna start to be
from the hunter to the
it's gonna start to be real unfamiliar territory.
Uncharted territory. And like I say, the next like I say, you talked about the next possibilities. Well, K-State plays them after they play us, and then they play BYU. So those are 2 potential.
I will give them credit, and I will say I do think Tech it has probably graduated to that tier of it's not really any given Saturday anymore, because I think they will have to legitimately do some things and play in a way they haven't played all year.
You're right. They've got to show how they handle adversity.
Exactly.
Real adversity. I don't know what the status is of Morton. I saw Coach McGuire. I think that, he was optimistic with some positive news. They actually lost a good D lineman as well, and Morton. And David Bailey did that without him. And, Coach Leipold in the post game talked about, I think it's going to be a good teach tape for whoever has them next, but like some structural things as far as chipping, intentional chips on the edge. getting it out quick. But he said, you know, people, you know, say, well, quick game to get the ball out of the quarterback's hand. But he said those are just short gains. You know, if they're tackling you right when you know, catch it, that's just short gains. So, you know, it's just one of those things. And that was just a better football team. They were a better football team, and we didn't capitalize on those opportunities to make it closer than, I mean, this is where the score and the stats lined up. Like I say, we started slow, and then when we did have our little rally and we had kind of questioning them, we had the Jones quiet. We farted out and we couldn't score. We couldn't score in the second half on those first 2 drives where we got stops on defense, and they eventually wore us down. And
me and you are never going to be the kind of people that will accept a moral victory or take.
Oh yeah, no, you heard what I just said. They were a better team.
But if there is one thing, and when I look back to like a Texas loss to Ohio State last year, or the original loss to Georgia last year, when I look back on, and even Ohio State this year, I think when I look at the makeup of the team, when I look at the statistics, when I look at, hey, you know what, for how we've been playing, and you talk about the turnover game and all, for how we have played in some of these games in the past, we actually didn't play all that bad.
Yeah.
And we still kind of got rolled up. I can sleep the second night. I'm not gonna be able to sleep that night, but at least, you know, those are kind of things that make a loss hurt for maybe only one day instead of 5. Yeah. So I'll say there is a little bit of solace in, hey, you know what? We didn't play that bad. We didn't play great. We didn't play that bad. But even if we played great, I mean, we might have got it closer, but sometimes the guys next to you, they're just playing a different game. They just playing a different game.
Yeah, and I just now, the time has come. Yeah, you know, respect. You know, it's you know. Boy, birthday weekend and a trip to Dallas. Tell me about it.
From what I can tell, I had a blast, man. I have no regrets. I felt this one probably until today. I felt this weekend probably until today. But man, we had a ball, like I talked about at the beginning of the show, to watch your team, you know, bounce back in a must-have situation, because every game right now is a must-have for Texas. So I think watching that come to fruition, and again, beating what I think is a really good Oklahoma team. I actually hate for them that the story that will be written is an unranked Texas, because I never thought Texas should have gone from 9 to, I think they've dropped
28,
like 28, which is wild, right? So I hate that for Oklahoma, that it, you know, because again, I think they'll pick up at least one more loss, could be more, to some other very, very, very good teams that have SEC championship aspirations. But like I said, we had a job to do. I thought we did it. We were able to sustain drives against a very good defense, and that's something we had not done.
Yeah, and that's something we couldn't do. But yeah,
we got into this huge argument today about where I said, and it sounds, if you don't analyze it or think about it, it sounds crazy, where I said for the kind of defense that Texas has, which I think they lead the country with like a 87% stop rate, right? So legitimately, arguably the best defense in the country. For them, and for this makeup of this team, sustaining a drive and coming away with points is the most important thing. Someone had mentioned, you know, we have to score more touchdowns because field goals won't win it. And I was like, well, they kind of will if it's the right way.
It was a field goal fest.
Right. Well, right now, Texas is averaging 11 possessions a game. Throw 3 of them out, right? Just any kind of way, turnover, Can't be a turnover with a short field, but a turnover or 3 and out or whatever, drive stalls out, penalties, all those kinds of things. So throw away 3 of those possessions. Mm-hmm. That leaves you with 8. Mm-hmm. Hell, let's take another one out. Let's go to 7. Mm-hmm. Right? And if we only score 1 touchdown on those 7 drives and we get field goals out of those other 6, that gives Texas 25 points a game. Mm-hmm. If we're but we're also possessing the ball within that time frame as well. Nobody's beating this Texas team, right? That is a recipe. If that were the case, Texas would be undefeated right now. If Texas could sustain drives and score 25 points a game in that way, right? So it's not necessarily the number, but it's how you get to that number, which is the most important part for this team. And then also, I think, Sark has always been one of those guys. He plays the game the right way. It was clear in those last 2 drives what was most important to the team: get down in bounds, keep that clock running. Because you saw Arch could have got.
Oh yeah, he just
but could have got a couple more yards. Yeah, could have. Yeah. We don't know. Turf Monster could have pulled away. We don't know. Yeah. But it was clear that the instruction was, and then you saw Wisner do it on the following drive. Mm-hmm. It's clear the instruction was, hey guys, time is the most important thing for where we are in the game. But like I said, our offensive line only giving up 1 sack. We had. Shout out to Nick Brooks, and that tells you a lot about a kid, because I was hard on him last week saying, I didn't even know a 0.0 from
the left tackle,
was even possible.
I think he only gave up 1.
He only gave up 1. He was the one who gave up 1. But they ran stunts at him.
Look at that.
They did a whole lot. I love Mateer's moxie. I love the fact that, instead of celebrating with his team, he watched it, and you could tell that it affected him. And I think that's a good sign for Oklahoma fans in terms of what that may mean for next year, what that just may mean for what he intends to put on the field for the rest of the year. I loved his answers. I went, this maybe is the sadomasochist in me. I don't know, but I went to go watch the Brent Venables press conference just for giggles, because I knew it would be a little somber moment. And I actually came away impressed with Mateer, because, he said, I had plenty of time to practice. I prepped. I felt good. I just didn't play well. And I just know that in this day and age, with the level of entitlement that comes with these athletes, especially the really good ones, you just don't see that very much. So I actually I went looking for laughs, and I came away kind of impressed with the kid.
Yeah, full accountability.
Because it was it almost was over accountability, because I was like, whoa, everything wasn't your fault. But he never once ducked a question. He never once made it about anything other than, I didn't play well. It wasn't the prep. It wasn't the injury. It wasn't anything. I didn't play well. And I
didn't pull a Kirby Smart.
I came away from that. I came away from that with some respect. Now, 2 people that failed the press conference this week, Brent Venables and Hugh Freeze at Auburn. That's people don't realize that the politic aspect of it. I said it when he got hired. I said Brent Venables was going to be there, Charlie Strong, and I stand on that. Just because you can kind of see it once you've already seen it. They didn't watch it the way we watched it. I saw it, so I know what I'm looking for now that I've seen it.
Yeah.
But they kind of obfuscate. You kind of, we did this in the Big 12. Well, let those other teams go play. That I just think you have to not fail in those moments, because now it's like, not only did you lose the game, then you took another loss on a Tuesday, and that's that's going to be a thing, because so now what does that do for you coming up on Saturday? And all SEC teams down the stretch have to be laser focused, because you're getting into that cannibal part of the season where you're going to see some really good SEC teams start to eat each other. That could have, I'll stand on this, I think if we're legitimately doing the 12 best teams in the country, 10 of them are coming from the SEC and the Big Ten. I legitimately believe that. So, but you will see some of those teams more from the, and by the way, more from the SEC than in the Big Ten. You know, it's probably 6-4 if I really thought about it. So you'll see some of those teams that I think would be in that mix for being a top 12 team in the country. They're going to lose out. They're going to lose some games to some teams that are just a little bit better. And I think some of these coaches are really going to start to earn their money down the stretch.
Shout out to the Big 12 for the clap back right away. Oh, shout out. Oh,
I thought it was good and it was funny. And I believe in that. It was a little intellectually dishonest, but because of what we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
But hey, that's that.
I got my own. Yeah,
I'm not here
to fight. They had the numbers to back it up. They had the numbers to back it up.
I mean, okay. If you're considered now, again, we talked, because I was on the opposite side when he came in. They, you know, when they do the hype up of when a coach is hired and their accolades and all that, they said he had like. Well,
of course you're gonna point out.
They said he had 7 Big 12 championships and a national championship. No, he didn't. Like that is a bridge too far.
Yeah.
But when
he was on the staff, he
wasn't talking about. And I think why I think it was intellectually dishonest. One, because does he deserve some credit for what Oklahoma did while he was calling 100%. Some of the best defenses in the country? 100%. Absolutely. But he wasn't making that the answer, because I went to go look, because I always like to see in context, out of context. And it was a little intellectually dishonest because he wasn't making it about him. He was just saying, kind of a message to his fans of, hey, I know what we're used to. Same thing Alabama fans are going through. Yeah. We're used to just getting out here whooping ass and nobody being even close. And those days are gone.
But I guess it's the way he worded it, because you're the head coach now, and your Oklahoma team lost for whatever the last 2 years. So it's not like when 8. I'm sorry, So it wasn't like when you was the head coach, you were just dominating, only had one hard game a year. Boy, you barely 500. I mean, you know, so
we was that hard game for people wondering at home.
It was Texas. He's talking about Texas, and you know, and now that's one little step of the monkey on your back now, you know, because I mean, you just
1-3 again. And I was telling my friend James, who's a huge Oklahoma fan, I said, you know, I know that burns y'all up more than anything, because I know what it was like when it was happening to us.
Yeah, well, because you said 1-3, right? The last 4 years, but like the stat said in the game, 11-8 Oklahoma, you know, over the last 19 years or whatever. So I mean, do you take credit for that because you was maybe a part of that staff, or
no? I think your fans are gonna. I think your fans are going to look at, because I know what the narrative was for Sark coming into this run. He started out 1-2, against Oklahoma. So that wasn't good, and people kind of looking at him like, hey, you can lose some games.
that 1 year,
that ain't it.
That 1 year with Dylan Gabriel, y'all should not have lost that game. But you know, was that the game?
No,
the last second touchdown? Was that the last second touchdown in the corner?
Yeah,
that Dylan Gabriel.
But that one, we couldn't stop him anyway. So I kind of knew. I knew. Like we talk about, you know, I was like, this is a who gets the ball last, and I knew when we left him a little too much time. I think I get more hurt about the Caleb Williams one, because they weren't playing well already. We ran Spencer Rattler out, and they were losing so bad. Lincoln Riley just was like, well, hell, I'm gonna just call anything. On the plate. There's no way you're running. You didn't practice that. You didn't you're just calling stuff, and it was working because we were so unprepared for it. Because in what world does that happen?
Oh, tempo change. Yeah, tempo
change.
That's
one of the ones where I look at that one that it got away from us, but I also look back on that with some gratitude, because now I hope that becomes the story of our season, where we weren't really playing well coming into this game. You came in and you won, and you respected, and you know that's a good team. Now, what do you go do with the rest of your year?
Yeah, you got it done. By the way, that Dylan Gabriel team, Kansas beat them. Anyway, so real quick, we're gonna move on, man. So congrats. I know it was a fun. You want to tell me about anything else that happened in Dallas?
We'll do that off camera.
But so y'all got Kentucky. Y'all going to Lexington. So because this is a full month on the road.
Full month on the road. Go from Lexington to
No, it's not Nashville.
No. They come to us.
Yeah.
Arkansas comes to us.
I don't know who. I don't pay attention.
I'm so focused. That tells you how focused I am.
Yeah. But I tell you what.
So that tells you how focused I am on what's in front of us.
So Kentucky, speaking of that, so in the past, Kentucky has been known to have a get after your ass D line. Have you watched them any at all?
I have. I watched the game last week, and I watched the game the week before that. And they very much it's not their D line of old where they have some guys that are going to wreck the game. But they have some guys that are going to hold up, and you're not just going to move them around. You're going to have good technique. They're going to stunt. You're going to have to do a lot of the things that you did this week, where you're going to have to play smart. You can't beat yourself. I thought the penalty situation on offense this year or this past week was really good, the best it had been all year against a good team. So if you can sustain drives, it's the same MO. If you can sustain drives and prevent them from getting easy touchdowns, right? Which I think we just have to rely on that as a fact at this point. If you can sustain drives and come away with points, you can get out of there. And that's I'm not looking for that is the one good thing about being in the SEC that I think coming down the stretch when you're jockeying for position, Texas Tech, BYU, some of those teams that are going to be fighting for position, they're going to have to win with a certain kind of flair, some pizzazz. The point spread is going to have to be a little wide. In the SEC, all you got to do is just win, because the names on the jerseys that you're beating lend some credibility to
basically
themselves.
Strength of schedule.
So we just got to win, and I'm not looking for anything sexist. I think the line is Texas minus 7.5. I think we cover. I think it's probably a double-digit dub. I think it's probably 10 point plus. But I think it'd be ugly. It's a night game. They're going to be liquored up, and they have nothing to lose. I think that's the only thing scarier than playing a really good team is playing a okay team with nothing to lose. And I think Kentucky is very much there. They don't have anything to play for in the grand scheme of championship or playoff. So now they just got Texas coming into town, and they just trying to salvage a season and make a moment that they can carry for probably the rest of their life.
Well, by the way, Stark Vegas is the next road trip.
There you go. There you go. And I'll be nervous. I'll be nervous about that, because they're going to test our secondary. I think we'll be able to run the ball pretty good, but that tells you how laser focused I am on what's in front of us.
Well, it's and I don't want to use the word trap, because it's like it's one of those games where I don't think Texas is like I think they're doing this rather than just.
I was about to say it can't be a trap, because
exactly.
What are you looking toward? Right? You can't say I'm looking toward Mississippi State, because everybody on that roster, you were part of an absolute drubbing last year. So you're going to go there. It's going to be tough. They're probably playing well, but I highly doubt, because of where you are at this point in the season, I think and you being the players, I think I have to be where my feet are. I have to be laser focused on what's in front of me. And that I do know after Mississippi State, I do know we have a bye week because we got to go to Athens after that. But hey,
well, it's getting to the meat of it. So
as high as I am right now, this shit could come crashing down Saturday. I don't think Saturday, if we win, I don't think it does any. Saturday is, I think you needed Oklahoma to tilt you up. I think you need Saturday to reinforce the good things that you showed on film. You'll have Mississippi State to reinforce the good things on your film bye week. And I think Georgia is your next inflection point of, okay, how right are we riding the ship? You win that game. I think that Vanderbilt game, if you want to talk about a trap game, Vanderbilt, Arkansas, those two fall into that trap category for me. If you take care of business, getting to those points. SEC scheduling, I actually defended it because Blake was, Blake was all, my boy Blake was all up in arms and said, he really hated how it shook out. And when you think about it, well, okay, what games would you shuffle in? Because, all right, if we don't play a whole month away, I don't want to move Vandy up to move Mississippi State back. Get it out of the way. Let's get in the bye week and get focused and know when we come out of this thing, we got 4 games. One should be okay, but we got 4 games that will either dramatically rewrite this season, or the minute we lose, I'm gonna see some things that, players exiting early. We're already seeing that. We're already seeing, then at that point, we're playing for the staff to show that I haven't lost the room. They didn't quit on us.
And I say this though, I'm on the outside of this. I'm a Texas guy, but I'm not a Texas fan. And you and I think the same way about superstitions and things like that. But like you just mentioned about Vanderbilt and Mississippi State, I'd rather play Starkville, and I'd rather have Vanderbilt come to Austin.
But I don't even, because Arkansas has now changed and transformed to become a whole different team. Rehearing that story, I think people are just like, oh, well, he cheated or whatever. Like, that's like one part of a 4-part story. The fact that, and that's what I do love about sports in the South.
Yeah, and America, a second chance.
Not everybody. He can't take that up north. Nobody's hiring. Ain't nobody hiring Bobby Petrino up north. Like, I don't care what he does with this Arkansas team. They could run it out. Arkansas will keep him, but nobody else is going to what do you call it? It is just going to completely deflect and get away from their moral compass in order to win, except for sports teams in the South, primarily in the SEC. Teams will just not care. I don't care what they did. Are they going to come here and win? And if they don't come and win, they're going to use that against you. Now, we knew we shouldn't have gave them a chance. We knew we shouldn't have did that.
If you're Coach Petrino, you got to know that too. You got to know or feel that some type of way, because
I think he knows. I think he knows. And that AD, shout out to him. We were talking about people taking accountability, and I think it's why Sam Pittman got such a long rope. He in the post conference or press conference after firing
Coach
Sam Pittman and introducing Petrino as the interim, he said, we don't have the resources to compete right now across the league. And that's kind of a call to the donor base and everybody, like, if y'all want to win. But to be honest and say that, so I think Coach Petrino knows that, and they're looking for Arkansas. You're going to have a guy right now that can do more with less.
And you got a guy that wants to be there, and you got a guy that wants to be there.
Because he knows this is probably the only place that will ever give me a head job that I can actually probably win 9, maybe 10 games in an off year, a season. And then if you win out there, again, I think it's why John Calipari went out there, and really good coaches go out there, is because I will say about Arkansas, if you go win and you can tap into a donor base that is Tyson's Chicken, that is Walmart, that is JB Hunt, you've got, in those 3 right there, you've got probably $60 billion.
That's crazy. That's crazy. And it is so
give
much
me $50 million, I'll call it a day.
Yeah, it's so much. I mean, I just want to coach football. And I know obviously there's more to it, but that, like I say, I'm no way in position to judge anyone. We giggle, we laugh. I don't know it's a serious matter. He's paid his penance. Obviously there are second chances because he's living proof of it. And no matter the age, or no matter what the draw is, no matter what the take, what the AD said about, you said like resources, everybody loved Coach Pittman. I think it is a credit to Coach Pittman that, he brought him back to give him a second chance, because, that the coaching world is a fraternity. you know, it's like I say, you talked about the human element. People are human. Yeah, right is right, wrong is wrong, but we all fall short.
Bobby Petrino probably knew that in his head, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm gonna do what's right because I
Yeah.
do think karma is real, and if I'm not gonna go in and sabotage the man,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go in and try to help win and
be the best assistant I can be. Yeah,
but it would be very naive to not think that he didn't think. Well,
that's you. That's not that was you.
Even a worst case, I'm going to go in. I'm going to do my absolute best to win for Coach Pittman and be the best assistant coach that I can be.
That's it.
Because I win on either side of it. If we do well and we revive this thing,
I'm a part of it.
We win. I'm a part of it. Somebody might give me another shot. Well, hell, if we don't, they might give me another shot. So it was a win-win.
And shout out to him. He probably knew something that we all didn't. And you know, I mean,
this a dirty game.
You know, and I try. You know me. I try to look to the. I try to be optimistic. I try to look to the fun side because it's a lifelong sport and it is a different game on the other side. You know, but if you're rooted in the right thing and you want to help kids and you want to help young men become grown men, fathers, dads, just better citizens, you'll end up okay. You know, I mean, that we're talking about the elite of elites and tops of tops, you know, but it is. But anyway, well, let's move on. Let's talk about what's to come this week. Since my Jayhawks are not playing, I'm gonna have a stress-free week because you know what? The Cowboys can't hurt me no more. You know, but
my Colts, by the way.
Oh yeah, hey, shout out to them. Even though they
would have ever thought Danny Dimes was the answer,
boy, and
fans in New York
and lost a key player in pregame. You know, but you know, y'all still doing y'all thing.
We've always been a good organization.
Is the GM? Is what her methods? Is it actually working? Is it? You know,
I love.
You know,
I will say, and I think for all the grief Jerry Jones gets, I think his problem has become that and people think he's too involved because he does maybe quote unquote overstep.
Oh no!
But I think the actual problem is I'm one of those people. You either have to be all in at every moment, or you get out of the way and put people in place that can do what they need to do. Mm-hmm. And I think what CARLIE is doing is I am all in every moment. And and it's lovely because you'll see like, and I love that they talk about it and it's not a hidden thing because he's like, I forget the tweet I saw, and I think somebody asked me about it in the post game because they made a play call and she was kind of like, and it didn't work. And I was like, and then she made, and they were you go looking for it and you'll find it on either side. You'll probably find some she didn't like that worked and some she liked that didn't. And then there was one where she saw it, she was like, you kind of was like, yeah, and it worked, you know? So it's like at a minimum, if you know what's going on in the room and you don't get in the way, I don't mind you being in the room. And that's all that is. She's in the room, but she's not in the way.
Yeah. And I think it's just those small things that you got to get over because I'm going to be real. It's almost like if you're a high school coach and things are set on the headset and your principal is listening. You know, there's some profanity. There's some things said because it's an emotional moment. It's the heated, moment. It's competitive, and sometimes you don't want people to hear that, because that's just between.
But it all depends on what.
No, I'm just saying that's an example. Yeah,
right. But I'm saying I think it disarms you because I'm probably never talked about this, but I know we talked about it. Is I've worked for 3 women in my professional life. The first one, awful. I said, I'll never do it again. The second one, might be the best. Jill might have been the best leader I've ever had in my life. So if she's disarming because for whatever reason, my teams are attracted to female leaders. I'm a Laker fan, and they tell you ain't nobody talking worse than Jeannie Buss. Nobody. So it's like if she is one of us,
gotcha.
Then I don't feel that. I don't feel like
agreed.
I can't say this, I can't say that.
Yeah.
Because
but you gotta feel that
she
first.
Probably gonna get mad at like, are you trying to win or not? Like you worry about me. Or you go win, you go do what you gotta do, And don't worry about me. I'm not here. I'm here because I'm taking notes because I need to know who know what the hell they talking about and who don't. And I'll use this later. But right now, today, I'm not here. Y'all are the coaching. Y'all are winning. Go win the game. Nobody looks to her. That's kind of what I was looking for. It's like, ooh, are people like looking to her and like kind of trying to see her opinion or her mood and all that stuff in the game? They don't even, it doesn't even phase them that she's there.
Now, in the beginning, that was so,
maybe
outside the box, and that was so out of the ordinary. So it was going to get that type of attention.
And then you never know, because what do we talk about when you introduce somebody new into the room? We were talking about you as a GA. Hey, if you ask somebody a question and they actually become a value add, women got good ideas too.
Oh, yeah.
She might have said something or been a value add where the coaching staff is like, well, hell, I don't care if she's here because she might.
No doubt.
She may be helping.
My only question I had in the beginning of it, not because she was a woman, but because she's front office, and coaches that's been coaching, it's still hard to figure out what's what, play calls, winning, and all that. So my question to myself was, if she's listening what the play call is, like, does she know what we're trying to do schematically? Does she know how to read or know what situations are in the game that she can make a determination of was that a good third medium call? Because this is what we have on our menu of third and medium calls versus this front versus this coverage. Those were the questions I had.
Wouldn't surprise me, because I bet at a minimum
that's front office, so I don't know.
I bet at a minimum, and she's worked it, and I love the way Jim Irsay did it with his kids, because I feel like that's what I would do with my kids. That's what I'm doing with my nephews and my businesses. Hey, you're going to go through every level of this. I may not pay you like it. You can work in the mailroom. I may not pay you like you work in the mailroom, but you're going to work in the mailroom. And you're going to learn this business at every level.
It lends to credibility.
So that you know what you're talking about. And I bet you she's probably one of those people, tell me what the game plan is. Tell me about it. I may not critique you or whatever, but I want to know. That way, when I'm looking, you talked about, okay, this is where we think we have the edge. This is what we're looking for or whatever. So then I know in real time. And I just think it works better for everybody when it works. Now, we haven't seen it when it breaks down. And we're not going to start every season 7-1.
Yeah, you're riding high right now.
You're going to win everywhere. So that'll be the test of when things break down, like inevitably they do in all sports.
Yeah, well, it'll be exciting. We got off on it, but she's innovative, man. Y'all are rolling. All right, let's see it. Look at this graphic. So this week we talked about games where we picked 3, and so I picked we both picked LSU and Vanderbilt, which we both feel that Vanderbilt is going to win that game. I'm in agreement to that. But now since timeout Tommy, aka Coach Smart, gotta go, and old Coach Kiffin, man, they got something rolling quietly. I like that quarterback that they've got down there, man. He's making some plays. And then the Holy War. I've got Utah. Utah has
on the road, huh?
Yes, Utah has BYU comes in with a 2-game winning streak in the Holy War, but Utah dominates this rivalry. But this year, I think BYU hadn't really been tried, and I don't know. Dude, did you know that there was a guy for BYU that got arrested today because he tweeted that? Okay, first of all, his Twitter handle was "Juice is on the loose," and he tweeted that I'm gonna be in Lavelle Edwards Stadium, and anybody I see in red, I'm killing. And he got arrested for making threats. Yeah, the Holy War is getting serious. So I don't know what's going on. I don't mean to make that a joke that he's gone, he's in jail, but we're like it ain't that serious. But there's a guy on there that says, "Hey, I'm logging off." he says you need to log off. And the guy says, "Nope, I'm staying on. Anybody in red, I'm killing them." I'm like, oh my gosh.
People forget that freedom of speech means I can say whatever I want to say, and the federal government cannot stop me. Okay? That does not mean I cannot lose my job. That does not mean that the local police department cannot that does not mean freedom from consequence. And we've seen a whole lot on every side of every angle of every issue. We've seen a whole lot of people think that free speech just means whatever and you can't say nothing to me about it. No, that is not true.
Your mouth can be said to say anything you want to say, but like I say, the consequence is whatever. But I don't want to go off. So I've got Vanderbilt, I've got Utah, and I've got Ole Miss over Georgia. So tell me about yours. So
I also have Vanderbilt. So I just think Diego Pavia, while I also believe the LSU linebacker, they'll probably spy him, and he's one of the best. With Weeks. So I think that'll be a really good individual matchup. But I think this kid's just a gamer, honestly. And LSU, not that Vanderbilt has a home field advantage in that way, because they really don't. I imagine LSU fans love Nashville the way Texas fans love Nashville. So I imagine it's going to be a lot of purple and gold out there. A lot of neck being played, but I just think it's going to come down to, I think, one, Vanderbilt is well coached. I'm a big Clark Lee guy. So I just think they'll be ready, and I think the kid's a gamer.
Shout out to Jeff Leapack, my boy Jeff Leapack, special teams guy.
What was the third game? What was the third game I picked? I've got USC going to beat Notre Dame, sneaking themselves ever so close into this playoff picture
again.
So I think Lincoln Riley, for a lot of grief, is slowly, and he's whooping ass on the recruiting trail as well. So regardless of what happens here, in the words of Deion Sanders, they coming. So I think we folks got to be on the lookout for that. And then I think what you probably wanted me to talk about more than anything, I am picking Arkansas to upset Texas A&M at home.
Surprise!
No, it's not even A&M hate. It's looking at Arkansas looked like a completely different team than they had looked last week. They were on the road. Now they're at home. I think these are Billy Lucci's words mostly, right? I happen to agree, but this is what the biggest Aggie fan in the history of Aggie fans said 3 weeks ago, right? You have made a change. You have seen progress, right? Coming in. So you kind of reinvigorated the fans to at least show up. And then if you can have just a little bit of success,
I got you.
That will energize that stadium from firsthand experience. It is a very tough place to play when those fans have something to cheer about. So I think you'll see them have some early success. Bobby Petrino tends to not be a guy that's going to beat his head against a brick wall. So I don't think he's going to spend a whole lot of time trying to run the ball, which is a no-go against A&M. I think A&M potentially for the first time this year will experience some adversity. I think they've only given up 2 third downs. I think their opponents are 2 for 34 or 2 for 32 on third down against them.
Wow.
So
I did see that stat.
So it won't take it's not that I don't think A&M is a good team, because I think they are just as much in the playoff picture, just as much in the race to Atlanta as anybody else. I just think in this particular matchup, it won't take much for them to experience adversity because they haven't had any. They've been so dominant and played so well all year.
Yeah.
I am not sold on Marcel Reed just yet. And I think Arkansas has some edge guys that can at least, kind of keep him corralled as much as possible. He's a better athlete than, he'll be the best athlete on the field. So I don't expect him to dominate him. But I think, again, when he can't get comfortable, can't get in a rhythm, you maybe throw a little adversity at him. I think you're going to see some absolutely crazy shit. I think Bob Petrino is going to pull out every stop, because this is the top 5 one at home that you can probably, you have a chance to win. If it's that or going on the road to an Austin, you know, I'm going to push. I'm going to go all in on this one, not because Texas is better. They are, but this is just the one that makes sense. So I think you're going to see everybody as bought in as they have been all year.
Yeah,
I think you're going to see them come in with a game plan that is, there is nothing, there is no road I will not travel to win this game. So that's my upset pick for the week. It's a night game. We playing. I'm busy watching what we got going on. Unless we're just dominating and I get that ESPN alert, I may switch to my quad box. But
I'm gonna have it. I'm gonna have it on all screens. I'm gonna enjoy watching everybody else and having no pressure on my end.
No stress. Boy, I got Saturday night plans, man. So I really need my Longhorns.
Well, we had to talk about that off camera. I don't know what you got going on. I didn't get the update on the calendar. But yeah. So yeah, big show, man. Yeah, but like I say, a lot of stuff, man. Like I say, Kansas is open. Kentucky, well, the Horns go to Lexington and play Kentucky. So we'll see, man. But great show. I appreciate you as always, E, your time and your input. As always, rock chalk, baby.
Praise the Lord and hook 'em horns.
All right, we see y'all next time. Later.